Be smart, not in the way the world defines intelligence, not in the way degrees, titles, and applause attempt to measure your worth, but smart in the way your soul already understands. Smart enough to recognize that you are not here to compete, but to create. Smart enough to know that what you seek is already seeking you. Smart enough to realize that the life you desire is not something to chase, but something to allow. There is a silent intelligence beating your heart right now. You are not commanding it. You are not reminding it to pulse. There is a wisdom-moving breath in and out of your body without effort. The same force that spins the planets in perfect rhythm is animating you in this very moment. And yet, the ego whispers, you are small, you are separate, you must struggle, you must prove, and you believe it. You forget that you are not the wave fighting against the ocean. You are the ocean expressing itself as a single magnificent wave. To be truly smart is to step out of the hypnosis of scarcity and awaken to the truth of abundance. The ego is clever, yes, but it is not wise. It will tell you that there is not enough love, not enough money, not enough recognition. It will compare your journey to another's highlight reel and convince you that you are behind. But behind whom? In a race that was never real, the oak tree does not resent the pine for growing differently. The sun does not compete with the moon for brilliance. Why then do you compete with your brothers and sisters in this grand human experience? If you squeeze an orange, what comes out? Orange juice. Not because the world forced it out of the orange, but because that is what was within. And when life squeezes you, when the pressure is applied and the deadlines tighten and the disappointments sting, what comes out of you? Is it fear? Is it anger? Is it resentment? Or is it compassion, clarity, and calm? You cannot give what you do not possess. So be smart enough to fill yourself with what you wish to express. Be smart enough to cultivate peace within so that when the squeeze inevitably comes, peace is what flows. You have been taught to chase outcomes, to strive endlessly, to push and force and manipulate circumstances until they bend to your will. But there is a higher intelligence available to you, a field of intention that responds not to force, but to alignment. When you align your thoughts with love, when you align your energy with gratitude, when you align your actions with integrity, life begins to cooperate with you in ways that feel miraculous. Not because you are lucky, but because you are in harmony with the source from which all miracles arise. You are not your possessions, you are not your resume, you are not your failures, you are not even your successes. You are the awareness behind all of it. You are the sky in which the clouds of thought appear. The clouds may be dark today, heavy with doubt or grief, but the sky remains untouched. The sky does not argue with the storm. It does not attempt to control the wind. It simply allows, knowing that every storm exhausts itself. Be smart enough to identify as the sky, not the passing weather. How much of your suffering comes from trying to control what cannot be controlled? The past has already dissolved into memory. The future has not yet arrived. And yet the ego drags you backward into regret or propels you forward into anxiety. Meanwhile, life is happening now, this breath, this heartbeat, this moment. When you anchor yourself in the now, something extraordinary occurs. The noise quiets, the fear softens, the clarity emerges. You begin to see that everything you truly need is present in this instant. Being smart is not about accumulating information. It is about remembering who you are. You are a divine being having a human experience. You are a spark of infinite intelligence clothed in temporary form. When you forget this, you suffer. When you remember it, you rise. The ego says, I am what I have. The soul whispers, I am. And those two simple words, I am, carry creative power beyond comprehension. What follows them shapes your reality. If you say, I am tired, I am unworthy, I am unlucky, you align with limitation. But if you say, I am guided, I am abundant, I am love itself, you begin to step into the truth of your spiritual identity. Everything in this universe is energy. Your thoughts are energy, your emotions are energy, your beliefs are energy, and energy attracts like energy. If you walk through life radiating resentment, you will find reasons to resent. If you walk through life radiating appreciation, you will discover more to appreciate. It is not magic, it is alignment. Be smart enough to choose thoughts that nourish rather than deplete. Be smart enough to observe your inner dialogue and gently redirect it when it wanders into the valley of self-criticism. There are no justified resentments. I want you to sit with that. The ego insists that your anger is valid, that your bitterness is earned, and perhaps the pain was real, perhaps the betrayal cut deeply. But holding resentment is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to suffer. When you forgive, you are not condoning behavior. You are freeing yourself from the prison of the past. You are releasing the energetic cord that binds you to a moment that no longer exists. Forgiveness is not weakness, it is spiritual intelligence in action. You will get everything in life when you stop demanding that it arrive in a specific form. The universe is infinitely creative. It does not always deliver through the door you expect. Sometimes what appears as loss is redirection. Sometimes what feels like failure is preparation. The caterpillar does not understand the cocoon. From its limited perspective, everything is dissolving. And yet within that dissolution, wings are forming. Trust the process of your own becoming. Ask yourself, who would I be without this story? Without the narrative of limitation I have repeated for years, without the identity built around wounds and disappointments. Beneath those layers, there is a presence, calm, radiant, unshaken. That presence is your true self. It does not need approval. It does not fear rejection. It knows that worth is intrinsic, not earned. When you operate from that place, your actions become inspired rather than desperate. You create not to prove, but to express. The world may tell you to hustle harder, to push further, to outshine everyone around you, but the oak tree does not strain to grow. It simply aligns with the sun, absorbs nourishment from the soil, and unfolds according to its nature. What if your task is not to force success, but to align with your highest self and allow success to emerge organically? What if being smart means trusting that your desires were placed within you for a reason? You are not here to live in fear. Fear is a teacher, yes, but it is not a master. It arises from the illusion of separation, the belief that you are alone in a hostile universe. But you are never alone. The same intelligence that orchestrates galaxies is intimately aware of you. When you shift from fear to trust, from contraction to openness, your entire physiology changes, your mind clears, your creativity expands, solutions appear where obstacles once stood. Imagine standing at the edge of the ocean, watching the waves crash and recede. If you try to hold on to a single wave, you will exhaust yourself. But if you recognize that you are the ocean itself, you relax into the rhythm. Experiences come and go. Emotions rise and fall. Relationships begin and end. But the essence of who you are remains constant. Be smart enough to invest your identity in what is eternal, not what is temporary. Gratitude is a gateway. When you say thank you, not as a polite gesture, but as a heartfelt acknowledgement of abundance, you shift your vibration instantly. You move from lack to sufficiency, from complaint to appreciation, and the universe responds accordingly. You cannot feel gratitude and despair simultaneously. They occupy different frequencies. Choose the higher one. You will get everything in life when you understand that everything you truly seek is a state of being. You do not want money, you want freedom. You do not want fame, you want significance. You do not want possessions, you want security. And all of those states originate within. When you cultivate inner freedom, outer opportunities align. When you embody significance, your presence alone impacts others. When you feel secure in your own being, circumstances lose their power to destabilize you. Be smart enough to release the need to be right. The ego thrives on being correct, on winning arguments, on defending positions. But peace is far more valuable than victory. Ask yourself in moments of conflict, do I want to be right or do I want to be free? Often, you cannot have both. The soul chooses freedom. Every morning, before the world tells you who to be, take a moment to remember who you are. Sit in silence. Feel your breath. Affirm gently, I am connected to the source of all creation. I am guided. I am supported. These are not empty words. They are declarations of alignment. And alignment is the birthplace of miracles. Do not wait for external validation to pursue your calling. The urge within you is sacred. It is the voice of your higher self nudging you toward expansion. When you ignore it, you feel restless. When you honor it, even imperfectly, you feel alive. The path may not be linear. There will be detours, but each step taken in faith strengthens your trust. Remember, you teach the world how to treat you by how you treat yourself. If you speak to yourself with harshness, you reinforce unworthiness. If you speak to yourself with compassion, you cultivate resilience. Be smart enough to become your own ally. The relationship you have with yourself sets the tone for every other relationship in your life. You are already enough. Not when you achieve more. Not when you lose weight. Not when you earn a certain income. Now, in this breath, enoughness is not a future destination. It is a present truth waiting to be acknowledged. When you operate from enoughness, ambition transforms from desperation into joyful expression. Life is not happening to you, it is happening through you. Each experience is an invitation to awaken further. When challenges arise, instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me?" ask, "What is this here to teach me? How can this refine me? How can this open me?" In that shift of questioning, victimhood dissolves and empowerment emerges. Be smart enough to listen to the whispers of your soul before they become screams. Your body will tell you when you are out of alignment. Your emotions will signal when you are betraying your truth. Pay attention, adjust gently, realign consistently. You will get everything in life when you realize that everything is already within you, waiting to be expressed. The seed does not strive to become a tree. It simply fulfills its inherent blueprint. You, too, carry a blueprint, unique, unrepeatable. Trust it, nourish it, allow it to unfold. And as you walk this path, remember that love is not something you find, it is something you are. When you radiate love, not sentimentality, but deep, unconditional regard, you become a magnet for experiences that reflect it. Love dissolves fear. Love transcends ego. Love reminds you of your unity with all that is. So be smart. Not smart in the ways of manipulation or control, but smart in the ways of the Spirit. Smart enough to choose thoughts that empower. Smart enough to forgive quickly. Smart enough to release what no longer serves. Smart enough to trust the invisible currents guiding you. Smart enough to declare with quiet certainty, I am aligned with abundance. I am one with the source of life. I am free. And when you live from that awareness, not occasionally, but consistently, you will discover that everything you once chased begins to flow toward you effortlessly. Not because you conquered the world, but because you conquered the illusion that you were ever separate from it. And as you begin to live from that awareness, not as an idea, not as an inspiring concept you visit on weekends, but as a daily, embodied knowing, you will notice something subtle and profound unfolding within you. The urgency begins to dissolve. The tightness in your chest loosens. The constant mental rehearsal of what if and if only fades into a softer, steadier presence. You begin to move through life not as a beggar searching for scraps of validation, but as a creator aligned with infinite supply. Be smart enough to see that the world is a mirror. Every person who irritates you, every circumstance that challenges you, every success that delights you, it is all reflecting something within. The ego wants to blame. It wants to point outward and say, they are the reason I feel this way. But the spiritually intelligent being pauses and asks, what is this showing me about myself? That question alone is transformative. It shifts you from reaction to reflection, from chaos to clarity. Imagine standing before a still lake at dawn. The surface is calm, undisturbed, reflecting the sky with perfect accuracy. When your mind is still, when you are not agitated by judgment or fear, you reflect divine intelligence just as clearly. But when the waters of your consciousness are stirred by resentment or anxiety, the reflection becomes distorted. The sky has not changed. The truth has not shifted. Only the surface is unsettled. Be smart enough to tend to the surface of your own awareness. There is a sacred space within you that has never been wounded. Think about that. Beneath the layers of disappointment, beneath the stories of betrayal, beneath the memories of failure, there exists a core that is untouched. The ego does not want you to find this place, because once you do, its power diminishes. The ego survives on your identification with pain. It whispers, you are your trauma, you are your mistakes, but the soul says gently, you are the observer of those experiences. You are the consciousness that witnessed them. and the witness is always whole. Be smart enough to disidentify from the voice in your head. That voice is not you. It is a collection of conditioning, of borrowed beliefs, of inherited fears. You learned it from parents, from teachers, from society. It narrates constantly, offering commentary on your worth, your appearance, your future. But there is another presence, silent, spacious, aware. That presence does not judge, it simply knows. When you shift your allegiance from the noisy commentator to the quiet witness, you step into freedom. And freedom is not the absence of responsibility. It is the absence of inner bondage. You can have obligations, commitments, goals, and still be inwardly free. The chains are not external. They are the thoughts you refuse to question, the grudges you refuse to release, the identities you cling to because they feel familiar. Be smart enough to ask, is this belief serving my highest self, or is it keeping me small? So many people move through life trying to be impressive. But your soul is not interested in being impressive, it is interested in being expressive. Expression is natural, effortless. It flows from authenticity. When you try to impress, you contract. You monitor. You perform. But when you express, you expand. You create. You radiate. Be smart enough to value authenticity over approval. Consider the sky again. Birds fly through it. Clouds gather and disperse. Airplanes cut across its vastness. Yet the sky remains untouched. It does not cling to the birds or resist the storms. It allows everything while remaining itself. This is your true nature. Thoughts will pass through. Emotions will rise and fall. People will enter and exit your life. But you are the vastness in which it all occurs. When you anchor yourself there, you stop chasing permanence in a world designed for change. You will get everything in life when you stop insisting that it look a certain way. The ego creates rigid blueprints. Success must look like this. Love must arrive like that. Happiness must follow this timeline. And when reality diverges from the script, suffering begins. But the soul understands flexibility. It understands that life is creative beyond your imagination. Sometimes the detour leads to a view you never would have discovered on the planned route. Be smart enough to release the timeline. There is no cosmic clock judging your progress. You are not behind. You are not late. The oak tree does not rush its growth because the pine is taller. Each being unfolds according to its own divine timing. When you compare, you disconnect from your path. When you trust, you align with it. Alignment is the key. Not force, not struggle. Alignment. When your thoughts, emotions, and actions are congruent with your highest values, you enter a state of flow. Opportunities appear almost synchronistically. Conversations lead to unexpected openings. Ideas emerge with clarity. This is not coincidence, it is coherence. You are vibrating in harmony with the field of intention. But to reach this state, you must be willing to let go of the familiar discomfort. The ego prefers predictable pain over unfamiliar freedom. It clings to toxic relationships because they are known. It holds on to limiting beliefs because they feel safe. Growth requires courage, the courage to step into the unknown and trust that you are supported. Be smart enough to recognize that discomfort is often the doorway to expansion. The caterpillar does not become a butterfly by clinging to the leaf. It must enter the cocoon, a space of dissolution, of transformation. Parts of you will dissolve as you grow. Old habits, old identities, old fears, let them. You are not losing yourself. You are shedding what you were never meant to carry. And as you shed, you may feel exposed, vulnerable. But vulnerability is not weakness, it is openness. It is the willingness to be seen without armor. When you drop the mask of perfection, you invite authentic connection. When you admit uncertainty, you open space for wisdom. Be smart enough to honor your humanity while remembering your divinity. You are both form and formless, a body that ages and a spirit that does not, a personality shaped by experience and a consciousness untouched by time. When you identify solely with the form, fear of loss dominates. But when you remember the formless essence within, death itself loses its sting. You begin to see life as a continuum, not a finite event. What would you do if you were not afraid? Truly. If you knew beyond doubt that you are supported by an infinite intelligence. Fear shrinks your world. Trust expands it. Each time you choose trust over fear, you strengthen the neural pathways of courage. You recondition your mind to expect possibility rather than catastrophe. Be smart enough to guard your attention. Where you place your attention determines your experience. If you constantly consume negativity, your inner world darkens. If you immerse yourself in inspiration, your spirit lifts. Attention is currency. Spend it wisely. Silence is another form of intelligence. In silence, you hear the whispers of guidance. In silence, solutions surface without strain. Make space for it, not as an obligation, but as nourishment. Sit quietly, breathe, observe. You will begin to notice that beneath the chatter, there is a steady hum of peace. And from that peace, inspired action arises. Notice I did not say passive waiting. Spiritual intelligence is not complacency. It is action born of clarity rather than compulsion. When you act from alignment, you do not exhaust yourself. You feel energized. Purpose flows through you like electricity through a wire. You will get everything in life when you stop trying to extract it from others. No one else is responsible for filling your voids. When you look to a partner, a job, or a possession to complete you, you create dependency. But when you cultivate wholeness within, relationships become sharing rather than seeking. Work becomes contribution rather than compensation alone. Possessions become tools rather than identity. Be smart enough to celebrate others without diminishing yourself. Another's success does not subtract from your own potential. The universe is not a pie with limited slices. It is an ever-expanding field of possibility. When you genuinely rejoice in the blessings of others, you align yourself with that same frequency of blessing. There will be moments when you forget all of this. Moments when the ego surges back with intensity. When doubt creeps in. That is part of the journey. Do not condemn yourself for forgetting. Simply remember again. Spiritual awakening is not a single event. It is a continual returning. Return to your breath. Return to your awareness. Return to the knowing that you are more than your circumstances. Each return strengthens your connection to truth. And as you continue walking this path with patience, with compassion, with courage, you will begin to embody a quiet confidence. Not arrogance, not superiority, but a steady inner knowing. You will no longer need to announce your worth because you will feel it. You will no longer chase approval because you will approve of yourself. Be smart enough to understand that the ultimate achievement is inner peace. All other achievements pale in comparison. Money without peace is anxiety. Fame without peace is isolation. Success without peace is exhaustion. But peace within transforms every external circumstance into an opportunity for gratitude. You are here not merely to accumulate, but to awaken. Not merely to survive, but to realize your divine nature. The journey is inward. The treasure is within. And once you truly grasp this, not intellectually, but experientially, you will see that you already possess what you have been searching for. Be smart. Choose love over fear. Choose forgiveness over resentment. Choose presence over distraction. Choose alignment over force. And watch as your life unfolds, not as a battle to be won, but as a masterpiece being revealed. Because in the deepest sense, you will get everything in life when you realize you were never separate from it to begin with.
My research reveals a fairly common definition of intention as a strong purpose or aim, accompanied by a determination to produce a desired result. People driven by intention are described as having a strong will that won't permit anything to interfere with achieving their inner desire. I imagine a sort of pit bull kind of resolve or determination. If you're one of those people with a never-give-up attitude combined with an internal picture that propels you toward fulfilling your dreams, you fit this description of someone with intention. You are, most likely, a superachiever and probably proud of your ability to recognize and take advantage of opportunities that arise. For many years, I've held a similar belief about intention. In fact, I've written and spoken often about the power of intention being just what I've described above. Over the past quarter of a century, however, I've felt a shift in my thinking from a purely psychological or personal growth emphasis toward a spiritual orientation where healing, creating miracles, manifesting, and making a connection to divine intelligence are genuine possibilities. This hasn't been a deliberate attempt to disengage from my academic and professional background, but rather a natural evolution that's been unfolding as I began to make more conscious contact with spirit. My writing now emphasizes my belief that we can find spiritual solutions to problems by living at higher levels and calling upon faster energies. In my mind, intention is now something much greater than a determined ego or individual will. It's something almost totally opposite. Perhaps this comes from shedding many levels of ego in my own life, but I also feel the strong influence of two sentences I read in a book by Carlos Castaneda. Castaneda's words were, quote, "Intent is a force that exists in the universe. When sorcerers, that is, those who live of the source, beckon intent, it comes to them and sets up a path for attainment, which means that sorcerers always accomplish what they set out to do," unquote. When I read those two sentences, I was stunned by the insight and clarity it gave me about the power of intention. Imagine that intention is not something you do, but rather a force that exists in the universe as an invisible field of energy. I had never even considered intention in this way before reading Castaneda's words. I wrote those two sentences down, and then I had them printed on a card and laminated. I carried the laminated card with me into the catheter lab for my minor surgical procedure. And as soon as I could, I began talking about the power of intention to anyone who would listen. I made intention a part of every speech I gave. I immersed myself in this idea to use it, not only for my own healing, but to help others use the power of intention to carry them where they're fully equipped to go. I had experienced what is called satori, or instant awakening, and was intent on offering this insight to others. It had become clear to me that accessing the power of intention relieved so much of the seemingly impossible work of striving to fulfill desires by sheer force of will. Since that defining moment, I've thought of the power of intention in virtually all of my waking hours, and books, articles, conversations, telephone calls, items arriving in my mailbox, and arbitrary works I might be looking at in a bookstore all seem to conspire to keep me on this path. I know that intention is a force that we all have within us. Intention is a field of energy that flows invisibly beyond the reach of our normal, everyday, habitual patterns. It's there even before our actual conception. We have the means to attract this energy to us and experience life in an exciting new way. The meaning of omnipresent intention. Try imagining a force that's everywhere. There's no place that you can go where it isn't. It can't be divided and is present in everything you see or touch. Now extend your awareness of this infinite field of energy beyond the world of form and boundaries. This infinite and visible force is everywhere, so it's in both the physical and the non-physical. Your physical body is one part of your totality emanating from this energy. At the instant of conception, intention sets in motion how your physical form will appear and how your growing and aging process will unfold. It also sets in motion your non-physical aspects, including your emotions, thoughts, and disposition. In this instance, intention is infinite potential, activating your physical and non-physical appearance on Earth. You formed out of this omnipresent to become present in time and space. Because it's omnipresent, this energy field of intent is accessible to you after your physical arrival here on Earth. The only way you deactivate this dormant force is by believing that you're separate from it. Activating intention means rejoining your source and becoming a modern-day sorcerer. Being a sorcerer means attaining the level of awareness where previously inconceivable things are available. As Carlos Castaneda explained, the task of sorcerers was to face infinity, or intention, and they plunged into it daily as a fisherman plunges into the sea. Intention is a power that's present everywhere as a field of energy. It isn't limited to physical development. It's the source of non-physical development as well. This field of intention is here, now, and available to you. When you activate it, you begin to feel purpose in your life, and you'll be guided by your infinite self. As you make your metaphorical bow to this power, recognize that you're bowing to yourself. The all-pervading energy of intention pulses through you toward your potential for a purposeful life.